And Tim, do you want to call roll?
Yeah, if you want me to do voice vote, I can do that. Commissioner Pelican.
Hold on, let me just open, yeah.
Don't start yet.
All right, we're holding.
Herman's on, so we got everybody.
I'm gonna get a haircut.
Okay, we're good to go.
We're good to go. So we're going to call to order the May 2020 Public Works Commission meeting. So we're going to do a roll call. Go ahead, Tim.
I have roll written down. We are all present and accounted for, all members
Okay.
for the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then the second piece, line item 3 is we're going to, we have an approval of the minutes for discussion on the minutes of April 20th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And that's coming from
Cal.
Cal. All right. We have a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Pelican, Commissioner Pelican. Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion? No. Seeing those minutes, all those approve the minutes, say aye.
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 All right. Any nays? No. So approval of minutes is been taken care of. We're moving to new business. We have a work order for design for the Mason Sidewalk restoration, HR Green. So
I'm sorry.
it's okay. Let me just get down to that area. That is page 4 on your agenda. So it's a work order with HR Green in the amount of $8,722.50 for engineering design services associated with the above referenced project. This will include design and permitting with St. Louis County to replace the temporary asphalt on Mason Road with concrete. Staff is requesting that the Public Works Commission make a recommendation to approve this agreement with HR Green in the amount of $8,722.50. Funds are currently available in the 2020 Park and Stormwater Fund to cover the cost. I'm going to hand this over to Tim for a minute to go over.
Yeah, so some of the commission members and most anyone that drives up and down Mason Road is familiar with the area this is referencing. This was the previous trail, the grant trail that we were trying to complete, the 8-foot wide from Clayton Road to just south of Buckland Hall. That grant has gone away. The design for the 8-foot wide path is no more. So we have some temporary area about 10 feet north of Weston Park to the northern side of Kings Glen that is currently in temporary asphalt from work that was removed in 2018. So this is to complete design and submit to St. Louis County for permitting so we can go back in and replace that temporary work with permanent concrete and finish grading and finalize that area.
Hey, Tim, this is Tony. I just wanted to find out, this is the one where we didn't obtain the necessary permits and started the work. Is this the area that we're talking about?
That's correct.
So with that said, where do things stand? You said we lost funding. Did we lose the funding as a result of not obtaining the permit, or is it one of those things, what happened behind the scenes? Because I thought we were still working on obtaining the permits.
So
earlier.
We were continuing design work for the 8-foot wide multi-use trail. We had design approved with St. Louis County, their design department, but through permitting, St. Louis County was going to require, in order for them to issue us a special use permit to complete the work, the city would take over all liability within the footprint of that trail area, including roadway, any liability. So that agreement had to go to the Board of Aldermen for approval, and the board did not wish to proceed with taking over liability of not only the trail, but right of way and road conditions on Mason between Clayton and Buckland Hall. So since we were not proceeding with that 8-foot wide multi-use path, then the municipal park grant for that 8-foot wide is no longer available to us. And we are no longer proceeding with the rest of the work that was originally designed in that entire stretch.
So
Is there any reason to do
That's crazy.
anything?
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, so as part of that permitting, those issues, why there's so many hours for coordination for the county permitting? It seemed there's like 22 hours worth of work. It seems like a lot for a.
Yeah, the work order includes, I believe, at least 3 or 4 submittals to St. Louis County. That's just typical anticipation of getting through their permitting process for right-of-way work. So they anticipate doing the design, responding to comments, and resubmitting, responding to those comments and submitting again. So it's
That's standard.
there's a couple, yeah, there's some layers in getting that permitting through county.
Is there any reason to do anything?
I would say yes. You know, inevitably, this area is in the condition it's in because of the city of Town and Country. So I think, you know, we're responsible to restore what's there for the residents and the community and everybody that has to drive by. So I would not, my personal recommendation is that we would not leave it as is with the temporary asphalt. I think, you know, regardless of what neighborhood we were in or what area, any project or job that we do, we have a certain standard in Town and Country that, you know, we want to reflect positively to the community, to those residents, and the work that we, you know, put our name with. So we should go back and correct what's there.
At
So
the
Matt-
point they're doing the design, are they gonna correct the grade issue we have with non-ADA compliant slope?
Yeah, they will have to address that with the design. I do not believe that St. Louis County is going to issue us a permit until we, you know, anything you touch moving forward, if you touch a piece of sidewalk, you have to bring it in ADA compliance. So they will be working on that as well.
Tim, so net, this is actually probably gonna be a negative hit to our budget for the city, right? If we're not gonna be receiving federal funds to, so has this been factored in with the budget shortfall that we expect due to the corona?
So we had some carryover for this project in our budget. I think that, you know, we will probably look for the board to make approvals with this contract. There will likely need an appropriation in conjunction with this work and construction moving forward. So you know, we have some areas in which we've made some accommodations. We've reduced spending. You know, this is something that will factor in holistically to everything that we're doing.
Well, the point is, we're gonna have to do this kind of design work just to restore it, whether we do it right now, whether the board funds it this year or next year. So you might as well get the design done and a price on it, so you know what you're looking for.
But by approving it, do we, if we sit on it for 2 or 3 years, you know, let's just say we have a tremendous budget shortfall and we decide to sit on it for a couple of years, do we, by putting it on the back burner, do we shoot ourselves in the foot by not having, by having to redesign it to updated codes 2 years down the road?
So the ADA compliance is not going to change what the cross slope and slope of the sidewalk is. That's really the only areas that would factor in with design criteria, and that's not going to change anytime soon.
So you think we're okay doing it, and worst case scenario, it gets shelved or tabled for a year or two, but it's still good to go?
Yeah, we will have, once we get through the design approvals, there will be a window of time for us to acquire the special use permit before we may have to resubmit it back to county again. Once we have the completed design, and as long as there's no changes, again, that work product is ours, we can easily send that back to St. Louis County, so we don't have to engage in an engineer to do that again.
And Tim, I believe you also said this is a different firm we're using for design, just to keep it separate from what we had before and bring in, we use HR Green a lot, but they weren't involved in the original Mason Trail, correct?
That's correct. So previously, the previous design was from AMEC Foster Wheeler, that then changed names to Wood. We do not have a contract with them for design. As we were progressing post October of 2018, all work we were doing with them was a work order system. So at the end of 2019, we entered into an agreement with HR Green. It was an on-call engineering contract that did not have a set dollar amount, but allowed the city on an as needed basis, whether it was for plan review, traffic study, any engineering work that the city needed on a case-by-case basis, we could do a work order system. That wasn't necessarily codified before by a contract or agreement. We did that at the end of 2019 into 20. So that's why we chose to move forward with HR Green. They're doing quite a bit of sidewalk design work for us on topping. We've been very pleased with their work. So that's why this proposal is in front of us for HR Green to do the design work versus Wood.
So in commissioners, what I'd also mention is, obviously this is a project that's been going on for some time, and in the end, it didn't move forward as designed. And it's kind of like, if we're going to fail, we need to fail fast. So having this design work done now gives us the ability, when we have funds, to go ahead and allocate the funds to get it done. It's kind of been back and forth between waiting on county and then dealing with the board to where, it's even though we're not going to build the trail, we need to get the walkway operational and in the best case for long term for our residents.
So I think something, if the commission's concerned about budget as it relates to COVID-19, if the commission were to recommend approval tonight, it would be June before the board, I believe, would do their second reading to approve HR Green to start design. Then you have your submittals to St. Louis County. We know historically that takes some time to get through their process. So inevitably, we may be looking third quarter before we even have quantities and numbers to give to a contractor, give pricing to complete construction, which then will also need to go to the Board of Aldermen for approval. So we will have a much better picture, end of second quarter into third quarter, of what our impacts are on sales tax dollars, and we'll be able to make a more complete decision from the board level versus today, right now, as we're in the just beginning stages of relaxing restrictions on businesses and what that impact is to our sales tax.
This puts it on the shelf with respect to us. Does it put it on the shelf with respect to the county? In other words, if we get it all done and everything, and we go ahead and not decide to do it right away, is there a time limit before the county says, well, we may want you to change the design or anything like that?
Yeah, as I already said earlier, there's, the design approval, and then the process to get the special use permit is not going to go on indefinite. But again, we're not going to be changing anything as it relates to ADA. Those requirements are not going to change. So once you have that in place, and we have that work product, if we have to resubmit to county, we can do that.
Any
One
other
last
questions?
thought here, but how's the intersection of Ballas and Clayton?
So that's not an agenda item. I think we should probably focus on what's on the agenda.
But that's related to this because it's an ADA issue and all that.
Yeah, it's not on tonight's agenda. So I think maybe if you would like an update, we can go under other and have a conversation, but probably should focus on.
There's no connection between the two projects, you're saying?
No, this is the sidewalk and this is south of that area.
The only connection is that Town and Country is involved and St. Louis County is involved. Other than that, they're not connected in any way.
Okay.
I'll move that we accept the proposal.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Bob. All right. Winterlich,
Yep.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? No? Any nays? All right, so it carries forward, and this design bill will go to the board. All right, thank you.
Good.
So we're going to go into old business. We're going to go into the code amendments, the 6 different code, the building, mechanical, residential, fire, existing, and property maintenance. So why don't we just, I'm going to go through the whole thing. We discussed this last time with regards to all the attachments and the documentation. Tim, do you want to talk about the changes that you've outlined?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak to that. There was 2 big changes since our last meeting. You'll notice that there is a spreadsheet that kind of details where all the changes are for these pages and pages of documents here that we have amendments.
Page 8 out of 45, if you guys are looking at it. It's
Page what of 45?
Page 8.
8.
Yeah, and that can be used as a guide to kind of as if we want to go through line by line, that kind of gives you a description of what's changed, why we took it out, whether it's repetitive or if it's covered in another section of the code. The other big change is we're not touching the 5/8 inch drywall, so we're leaving that in the same as it was in the 2015 code. Just based on the last meeting, I think you guys wanted to not change that and keep that for Town and Country. So those are the 2 big
72.
changes. But another thing is just as a general comment, I just want to let you know that Dave Phipps and I, we sat down with West County EMS and Fire to discuss all of the additions and amendments that you have in front of you too. So that's just an FYI. We were talking with them. And the last thing I want to bring out, since we did talk about, costs, and the COVID and everything else that's going on, there is a cost for the codification for this, and that's something that we'll have to address at the board level. But I was talking with our city clerk, and I think it was about $2,000 last time when we upgraded to the 2015, and that incorporated about 39 pages of ordinances. on the last update. And if we move through with all of these changes, you're probably looking at about 42 pages of ordinances. And so we're probably looking around the same cost, but that still is a cost that we'll have to address, you know, when we get to that point. And as we discussed before, you know, once this is approved through the Public Works Commission, it's going to sit 90 days in the city clerk's office before it gets to the board for approval. So we still have some time, but I just wanted to throw those things out there, and how you want to proceed from here, whether you want to go through every line or just, I guess I'll open it up for questions.
Tim, why don't you, if you want to go through like the, we can go through questions. You can hit like, go through the Excel list. If there's a big one you want to highlight.
Well, I figured if anybody, you know, gone through all of these changes, and if there's something that sticks out, we can address that. But
okay, we'll start there.
I don't want to, you know, take everybody's time all night here going through the number of pages that we have, but just whatever you got.
So Tim, I had a quick question. This is Andy on one of the detractions, the redactions. It's page 22 of 45 on the PDF. It's under section 105.1.1. It's talking to the demolition and within 30 days of, that needs to be done within 30 days. Otherwise a request for another permit. I didn't notice that on the Excel list, and I didn't know if that was somewhere else in all these different codes, or I was missing something.
Wait, which code is that in? Is that the IBC?
The International Residential Code.
Andy,
Yeah.
if you look on the third page of the Excel spreadsheet for
Yep.
the residential code, that should be number 1.
Oh, it's in the okay.
So it's located in the building code amendments. So it was repetitive in nature, and that's why we're choosing to remove it and just keep it in the building code.
Okay, sorry, I didn't connect the dots there. I was just working through the PDF with the sheet. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
I'm not sure how the other commissioners feel, but after reading through all of it and the redacteds and everything that Tim sent out this time, I'm comfortable with the changes. I didn't see anything in most of this that has any real flag raising or anything, at least from my perspective and the years I've spent in construction. I don't know, Tim or Tony, what do you think?
Bob, I do agree with you on that. You know, as we talked about the drywall last time, I think Town and Country is just known to have 5/8 drywall. So that's just one of those things that people, I think if you change it to 1/2 inch, it'd almost be against the grain to some degree. But it's just kind of keeping up with the times and keeping current with the new codes that are coming out. And I think trying to keep our, the insurance rating with the AM Best within a certain guideline so we can get the best rates.
Yeah,
I agree.
Other questions for Tim? Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve.
Okay, Tony, I'll second it.
Tony and Tom? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any of those opposed? Seeing none,
Pretty simple.
motion carries. Thank you for all this work, Tim and Laura and Tim, and getting that done. And thank you for the commissioners for digging through all of that too. It was a lot of work.
Just for everyone's clarifications, the minutes will reflect, although we have these separated out by the individual codes, will show that they were discussed and as a collective, all of the code presented were approved, all in favor.
Thank
Sure.
you. Yeah. All right. So it was our old business, and this would be a time for other. Is there any other?
What, we talked about the sidewalk Mason Road, which we were talking about. Where's the whole, I know there's a lot of situation going on Mason Road on trying to get the trail through. Where is that thing sitting at as of today?
For which section or which area, Tom?
The next section going down, from Buckland Hall down towards.
There's currently no plan to move forward with any design south of Buckland Hall.
Okay,
It's identified in our master plan, but we don't have any active engineering or pursuing anything in that area.
Okay, cool.
The next section that you'll see is the St. Louis County has applied, and the city is partnering with from Clayton Road to Mason Ridge. They have a STP grant. Anyone that drives that knows that there's about 40 water main break locations.
Right.
So in advance of that project, Missouri American Water will be replacing that main. St. Louis County will be repaving the roadway, and Town and Country has contributed to make that section at 8 foot wide from Clayton to Mason Ridge. So,
and I did get an update from the county today in regard to that section. They plan to move forward with advertising for a design consultant for that section next week. So they're moving forward with that, and they're wanting to see what kind of participation Town and Country is gonna have. So I'll be talking, Tim and I will be talking with them over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we can get you an update by the next meeting.
You could probably get residential participation in that, Tim, for all of us who drive that and have to have our cars realigned about once a month.
Take it.
That's pothole city.
Yeah.
It's an STP grant, so your standard timing as far as your cycle with design, right of way, and construction. I don't believe there's going to be a need for any right of way on this project, but again, until they get the preliminary design done, we won't know that answer.
Right.
But so it's as they're doing their RFQ now for design, you can kind of do the math, and it'll still be by the time the utility locations happen and then construction, you're still probably looking 2 years out.
Yep.
I'll still be living there. So
Yeah.
I live right there. Okay. Anything else on other?
Heard we had a fire up at this morning up there by, what is it? The FedEx store and Starbucks.
I think both Tims were working remotely today, and Dave Phipps, the fire marshal, has already gotten off. So I don't know that we could provide any information on that.
Well, the call came out on a scanner. The house up at Clayton and Mason emptied, and apparently it was an electrical fire with a bad transformer, from what I've last heard.
Yes, the electrical panel caught fire, I guess. The fire district did respond and did let us know.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, good. Well, again, thanks everybody for their time. Do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
Herman,
I'll second.
second by Andy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you again for your time. We'll be sending out something for June. Obviously, safety is first and foremost on the city's mind. So my gut says it'll probably still be a Zoom, but you never know. But it'll be good to see you guys all in person soon enough. So.
I agree.
So is the